At some point, every musician has to deal with this dreadful machine, the metronome. It sucks having your playing ruined by this annoying clicking and beeping sound. It just feels like everything's ruined. All the fun is sucked out of it. Why would you want to use one? Let's check that out. Hey guys, it's Tyler Vivian here, and there are 3 main reasons why you want to use a metronome in your practice. Inconsistent speed. You may play a song, and the song at the beginning and the song at the end might be 2 completely different tempos. You might start super slow, and then just faster and faster and faster and faster by the end, or the other way around. You might be playing by yourself, and that's fine, but if you're at a gig and you're playing for a bunch of people dancing, they're not going to enjoy that. Being messy. How many times have you gone for like some kind of fill or maybe a lick on the guitar or something and it just doesn't sound right? The timing's over there and you're over here. If inconsistent speed is an issue on a macro level, then being messy is like on a micro level. It's all the little inconsistencies in between all the notes. You're just coming in slightly too early. You may be trying to copy one of your favorite artists and like listening to them and then listening to yourself is just completely different. You might sound like a mess compared to them. Being messy is what sets you apart from the artist, and not in a good way. Not locking in with others. You might be at a gig playing with your bandmates. The drummer's playing a killer groove, and the bass player is playing a fat bass line. Really tasty. But together, they're not really meshing. Things feel all over the place, and the accents and the unison lines are just not lining up. Because of this not locking in, it's not very enjoyable for the audience. The vibe just kinda dies. If this is you, and let's be honest, it might be, then you need to use a metronome. Using your metronome in your daily practice is gonna help you with your internal pulse. The internal pulse is what you have inside of you that keeps that groove flowing. You can keep track of how fast things are going. It's just speeding up and slowing down. It's what you need to play. It keeps track of the beats, keeps track of how fast and slow you're going, and makes sure that you're meshing with everyone. All the things that I mentioned before, that's because of a weak internal pulse. The tips that I'm gonna give you are going to help you so much. By working on it now, you're gonna save yourself so many headaches. Metronomes are literally everywhere. They're not just in practice situations, but they're also in studios and they're also used in live gigs now. On stage, you might be running backing tracks, or you might need to make sure that you're in time with some kind of lights or some special effects. Being able to keep in time with a metronome is gonna help you heaps with this. In the studio, pretty much everything is recorded to a click now. You're gonna have a much better time if you can do 3 takes rather than 300 takes because of speeding up or being messy with fills, those things that we mentioned earlier. And after those 300 takes, you're gonna absolutely hate yourself. You're just not gonna wanna hear yourself or maybe play ever again. The studio is meant to be a fun place, and we don't wanna be having that. So, have I convinced you yet? You wanna strengthen that internal pulse? You can find metronomes literally everywhere online nowadays. You can find them in free apps, you can find them on the websites, you may even have an electric kit that has them built in. The one that I use is called Tempo. I can get this one on both Apple and Android, so it works really well for me, non-sponsored. You can use any metronome that you want, as long as you get one. Now, you may have noticed, I'm a drummer, but all these things you can apply to any instrument, whether you're a guitar player or a bass player, even a singer. If you've never used a metronome before, this might be a little bit of a strange thing to you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna demonstrate how to use one using that metronome app I used before, Tempo. So this is the metronome that I use, Tempo. So what you can see here is that we've got the BPM, which is 60. That's how fast it can go. We've got the clicks up above. So in this case, it's a 4/4. That means there's 4 clicks per bar. And we also have the play button. So if I were to hit play, just does that. Now, you can do a couple other things. So like I said, you can increase the speed,
do, which is really cool, is you can add things called accents, which are just make some different noises. So in this case, I'm going to put this accent on this first one. So as you can see, it's got a little symbol there now. Makes it different. The most important thing, which is what I'm going to show you later, is that you can actually turn off clicks. We'll get into why that's important later. When you've been playing something to a click for a while, it's a good idea to start dropping the amount of clicks that are actually being played, putting more space in between them. So, for instance, if you have a bar of 4/4, you click going boop, 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 boop. Instead, what you're gonna have is maybe on the 1 and the 3, it's gonna go boop, 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 boop. Maybe even just want the 1. Boop. Boop. Those are amazing metronome noises, I know. Most time when you're playing live, you're not going to have a click. And that's why we're using this to develop that internal pulse. We need to have that click inside of us so that when we're playing, the click isn't dragging us through everything. The click is only there to kind of give us an indication of, larger spaces of time. Click on just the first beat, boop. Those last 3 beats that we have to fill in the gap. And you can do this as far as you want. You can extend this to just not 1 click every bar, but you could have every 2 bars, every 4 bars, every 8 bars. You can go as nuts as you want with this, right? One way of doing it on the tempo app, you can actually just get rid of clicks as you want, but you can also just go from 200 BPM to 100 BPM to 50 BPM to 25 BPM. It's gonna automatically give the same speed, but you're gonna have those spaces now built in. Now, the click doesn't just need to be on the downbeat. It doesn't just need to be on the 1, 2, 3, 4. If you're in 16th note land, you have the 1 E and 2 E and 3 and so on. You can put the click on any part of those 16th notes. You can put it on the E. You can put it on the and. You could put it on the ah. You can also do this with triplets, 1 and 2 and 3, and you can put it on the and the ah. We don't want to just hear where the downbeats are. We want to hear where everything is. We want to be able to place everything exactly where it's meant to be, where we want it to be. Hearing it on the E and the ah are especially hard. Now, I would recommend trying this when you have a little bit more experience with the metronomes, maybe trying out that spaced out method first before trying to move clicks onto different parts of the beat. But this is a really good exercise if you have a bit of confidence in them. Being able to do this confidently means that that internal pulse of yours is really starting to shape up. Actually put the metronome on. Actually put the metronome on. Actually put the metronome on. A lot of people are going to have the metronome, they're going to download it, and then they're never going to use it. They'll go through the entire practice session. They'll play all their rudiments, they'll play all their grooves, they'll play all these really tasty sounding fills, but they will never put it on with the metronome. For myself, I am guilty of this too. But I have found a way to make sure that the metronome is on from the very beginning so that it's easier to use because it's already there. At the moment, I'm trying to increase the tempo of each of my rudiments. And in order to do that, to actually measure it, I need a metronome on. So from the very beginning, the metronome is already there, it's already being set up, and I got my earphones in and I'm able to hear them. And then when I move over to the kit to do some actual, kit practice, my metronome's already there and it's super easy to use. It's a good way of tricking yourself into using a metronome. Think about your practice sessions.
How could you incorporate the metronome into what you practice? Is it something that's going to require a lot of setup? Are you going to need to bring in a laptop or a phone or an iPad into your practice session with you? Is that a distraction by having those things in there? Are you going to need to go buy a physical metronome? Do you need to make sure that there's headphones, or do you make sure that there's speakers so that if you play really loudly or you practice really loudly, you can actually hear the metronome? All these things that you might need to consider so that when you actually do the practicing, it's not like, oh, I should use the metronome, but it's just this simple boop and it's going. So now what? Go download a metronome. Go download a metronome. Go download a metronome. Go download a metronome. Strengthen that internal pulse and start playing some killer shows. Also, if you learned something or you just like the sound of my voice, please leave a like and subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me. Comment down below if you have any other tips for how people can use metronomes. And until next time, see you later.